Congressman, I want to start off first with the economy. You're in a crowded field, not only in the Democratic primary, but if you were to emerge from that, you would be up against a candidate who, for one way or another, has a relatively strong economy on his side that he can sell to the American people. Is there any sort of way that you differentiate yourself, or you can say to the American people that you can do something better economically than what the current president has given us?
Yeah, a high stock market and low unemployment does not necessarily mean that the middle class, the working class people in the United States are doing well. I am here to say very clearly they are not. 75% of the American people today are still living paycheck to paycheck. We have been crushed, not just in the last 10 years since the subprime mortgage crisis, but going back 40 years with globalization, deindustrialization, now automation. There's been no strategy in the United States to rebuild the middle class. And I've been traveling just in the last few days. There's homeless people in Manchester, New Hampshire. There's homeless people here in Greenville, South Carolina. There's tent cities in Los Angeles. The income inequality is as high as it's been since the Great Depression. And so we've got to, and I say this on Bloomberg because I think it's important, not that we've got to be divided about this, but we have a big time problem in our country that a vast majority of the people at the top are not recognizing how deep this runs, and we've got to fix this middle class. We've got to get it back up and running again.
Well, Congressman, one way perhaps that the sort of effects of deindustrialization and globalization could be mitigated would be a new trade relationship with China, and obviously that's something that the president believes could help address some of these issues. Were you the president right now, how would your approach to dealing with China differ from President Trump's?
Well, the tariffs that the president is putting on, and some of them I actually support, because we've had steel dumped in our country for a long time that's put steel workers out of business, hurts the steel industry because they were cheating. And so we need countervailing duties and anti-dumping provisions on that steel coming in. But that's a tactical move. With China, we need a long-term strategy. Now, Secretary Mattis put a long-term military strategy together with the National Defense Strategy with China and with Russia, but we have no whole of government, no economic strategy with China. And we've got to go through competition. We've got to outcompete them. You guys know all about the Belt Road Initiative. You know about the islands in the South China Sea. You all know about the raw material contracts in Africa and the ports in the Middle East and rail lines going all the way to Europe. You know all about that stuff. What's our strategy? They've got a 50, 100-year plan. We've got a president who lives in a 24-hour news cycle. And when I'm president, we're going to have a long-term strategy around dominating the electric vehicle market and driving. So the American worker is building electric vehicles. So the American worker is building the batteries. So the American worker is building the charging stations. Right now, China controls 40 to 50% of the electric vehicle market. Same thing with solar. How do we dominate and build the most solar panels in the world? Right now, China controls 60% of that market. AI, additive manufacturing, wind. Let's go. Come on, America. I mean, we got to do this, but when you have a president that is the distractor in chief, instead of someone like I would be, which is a long-term strategy, bringing in investors, bringing in labor, bringing in the government, and put a whole-of-government approach to dominate these markets. We can do it.
All right, well, you talked about the auto sector and the electric vehicle market. On paragraph 3 of your homepage, Congressman, you talk about a closing of a local GM plant and your daughter's friend whose father lost her job. What's your plan for bringing back these GM plants to your local town?
Well, hopefully work with GM to move into the electric vehicle market. I mean, that's a prime example of there's going to be 30 million electric vehicles made in the next 10 years somewhere in the world. Why aren't we saying in the United States, we're going to dominate and make 50% of those and then drive those investments through opportunity zones, through tax incentives, through grant money, however it can be, drive those investments, drive that growth into the old manufacturing communities, the old textile communities, the old auto coal communities, communities of color that have been left behind for the last 30 or 40 years. What I'm trying to do is say, look, this is not about left or right. This is about new versus old. And if we don't adapt to the new economy, if we don't understand there's an industrial revolution happening in the world today, right, and we want America to lead it, we're going to continue to lose. And there's a way to do this where you actually cut the middle class in on the deal, cut the workers in on the deal. So I would say, let's go hard at electric vehicles. Within the first week I'm in office, there will be a meeting in the White House about how we dominate 50% of the electric vehicle market and the battery market and get those jobs back in the United States.
All right, let's talk about another issue that came up during the midterms. It's an issue that a lot of voters, both Republicans and Democrats, have focused on, and that's health care. You've got a major case down in New Orleans that could potentially be one of the death knells for the Affordable Care Act. You have proposals out there from the far left for Medicare for all. How do you address the health care issue in this country?
Well, I don't believe we should be the party going in, taking people's private insurance away from them. I think that is a very, very big mistake. I think we do need a public option, and so that people can buy into and get some kind of basic care, and if they can't afford it, we should help them pay for it. That should be a right in the United States. We all should be in agreement. But we spend 2.5 times as much as any other industrialized country today, and we get the worst results. So we need to actually fix the system, and I think it starts with moving from just talking about health insurance, which of course needs reformed, but moving away from a disease care system, a sick care system, into a system that focuses on prevention, where the incentives for the doctor and the patient are to get and stay healthy, and refunds and rebates for those patients who get and stay healthy, money for doctors who help patients get and stay healthy. 75% of our healthcare costs today are from chronic diseases that are largely preventable. That's $2 to $3 trillion a year. So if you're a CEO sitting here listening to this conversation we're having, you're going to say, man, if I'm looking at my spreadsheet and $2 to $3 trillion is something that we can prevent in expenditures, how do we do it? And there are innovative ways out there around food as medicine, where we're literally reversing type 2 diabetes by making a few $1,000 investment into diet, nutrition, and some support, getting good food to people, basically. It's reversing type 2 diabetes, which costs us $14,000 a year. So what I'm saying is, it's not left, it's not right. It's new versus old, and there's new ideas about using food as medicine and helping people prevent diseases. That's the way forward, and that's the kind of healthcare plan I'm going to implement.
Congressman, your House colleague Eric Swalwell dropping out of the race yesterday. You're polling very low, and there's probably, I think there's 23 or 24 other candidates in there. So what is the message that's going to break out? Because at a time when people are talking about impeachment and they're talking about Medicare for all and so on, is it going to be electric cars? Like, what's going to be the thing that stands out?
It's going to be the candidate that is focusing on the economic anxiety that the American people are feeling right now. I don't think there's been any candidate who's as clearly addressed it. In the last debate, I was very clear about it. In this debate, I'll be very clear about it. This has got to be the issue. How do we address the economic anxiety that the American people are feeling? How do we address the anxiety, the mental health crisis in the United States? Look, I come from a forgotten community, and it turns out that most of the country feels forgotten, and they're going to want to vote for somebody who knows what it's like to come from one of these communities. I'm at ground zero of the opiate epidemic. I'm at ground zero of globalization and automation. I know the path forward. We've talked about it in this interview, and they want someone who they know is going to walk into the Oval Office and be thinking about them. And the more people hear about me, the more they like me. I'm encouraging everyone to go to timryanforamerica.com and send me $5 or $10 if they want someone to really have a robust economic message. That's what's happening here. I had my highest fundraising days after the debate, and so we're just going to continue to move forward. I'm meeting with the people. I'm not from a big state. I'm not from a big city. I didn't go to the Ivy League, so I don't have a big Ivy League network, but I'm moving. I mean, if you look at the polling, people have raised $15, $20, $25 million, and they're 3% ahead of me. So I'm competing in this race, and I think I got a really good shot at winning.